Hey everybody, welcome back to another Godzilla Battling video, and today we are ranking all of the post-release monsters by how meta-defining they were. They were either, top of the meta, cream of the crop, creme de la creme. They were semi-relevant, seeing play, not really that important, mid, not really helpful, and then bruh. And I think there may be only one guy in bruh section, so we'll see about that. I want to say, right off the bat, straight off, this is not a tier list of how powerful these characters are currently. This is just how they were when they dropped. If you want a tier list on how powerful they were currently, you're going to have to wait until we do our season's tier list. We are starting from Godzilla Terrestrius, and we're going all the way to Shin Godzilla's 4th form, as Shin Godzilla is the latest character to be added to the game at the time of this recording. And Godzilla Terrestrius, he is the first character that was added. These are all characters that came out within the very first year of the game. Every character that I'm ranking here has been in the game before June 15th, 2022. With that being said, let's get into it. Let's start with the first character to be added, June 2021, Godzilla Terrestrius. Godzilla Terrestrius, when Ultima dropped, Ultima was defining the meta. At the time, the swarm units were the meta. But we didn't really have a lot of characters. If you were not transporting Anguirus across the map with your swarms, you're running Ultima, right? Everyone was running Ultima. Season 1, Season 2, after the swarms were nerfed, Ultima popped off. Ultima's everywhere. Ultima is still everywhere. Terrestrius and Ultima, they were meta-defining when they dropped, and Ultima to this day is still a very, very, very relevant unit in the game. He's one of my favorites. And what else is there to really say about him? He's always been a top performer. He's always been at the very top of everyone's tier list. Ultima's the best. Moving on. Kong. Kong had a little bit of a rough start. Kong was added in July of 2021. And Kong was not really relevant ever. When Kong was introduced, the swarm meta had stopped, and G89s started seeing a lot of play. Season 2... when Kong and Jaguar singular point dropped, the big meta shift was Mothra Leo with G89, because Mothra Leo's skill was actually bugged and it was healing for an infinite amount of health. So you could have run Kong instead of G89. However, easier to level up G89 than it is for Kong. Comparable stats, people were running 89. It was just, when Kong was dropped, there was just another tank running the field at the moment. So you hated to see that. I was going to say Godzilla singular point. Jaguar singular point, however, I don't know if he defined the meta, but he was definitely relevant. Jaguar singular point was very, very, very relevant in the early portions of the game because he could eat up 2 hits. You have to remember, third character coming to the game, there wasn't really a lot of strategy, diversity, and stuff like that. Everyone's kind of experimenting with what we already had, but we only had a handful of units. Must have been like 20 units in the game, and the ability to block 2 shots was incredible, and he had really good range at the time. He had to get a range nerf. Very good unit. He wasn't like, if you didn't have him, you were losing, but if you did have him, he was incredible. Not to mention the fact that if you did get him in his season, during his event, Toho gave us, I'm like stepping all over my words, Toho gave us the opportunity to raise him to level 5.5 or 6, I don't really remember, but you had to unlock him first. You couldn't complete any challenges for him without using him in your deck, and they didn't give him to you for free. If you didn't get Jaguar during his season, you were boned. But if you did get Jaguar during his season, you automatically pretty much got him skyrocketed to straight up to level 5. And for everyone just starting out in the game, a level 5 4-star was massive. And for Jaguar to block 2 shots and do a ridiculous amount of damage, really, really great. Unfortunately, he could still be shut down by Ultima, who had really long range, and Manila, who had really long range, or anything in the air. There wasn't too many units being used in the air at the time, but Megaguirus, who has been, oh my god, a perfect unit since day 1, would shut him down pretty quickly. So that is that. Next, G21. G21, he's been semi-relevant. He when he started, he was semi-relevant. He's still, if you have a high enough G21, he's still decent, but a lot of people still run him. His ability was crazy, and he's just like through and through one of the best units in terms of damage that we've ever had in the game. However, he's really easily shut down. The fact that he's a single target and then he has to like alternate and go through his whole animation again. It's really just the worst thing you possibly could end up with, right? And Manila used to be able to stun lock him, and he couldn't attack. So if your opponent wasn't running the double Kamakuras or the Manilas, plural Manilas, if they weren't running Manila or any of the swarms like Kama or Destroya, your G21, you had a good chance of winning a match with him. But he was really easily countered, and he's still really easily counterable. So he's never been meta, but he's always kind of been semi-relevant, and he pops up from here and there still. Mothra Leo. Mothra Leo, when he dropped, Mothra Leo was alright. A lot of people running King Caesar back then. I mean, a lot of people still running King Caesar, but at the time, Mothra Leo was doing a little bit more damage and was flying, but King Caesar's easier to level up. Same thing that happened to Kong is what happened to Mothra Leo. There was another unit that was more easily accessible that people had already leveled up, and it wasn't worth running these units who did something slightly better, but they were harder to obtain. That is, it seems to be a trend that this game has. Next, Super X. Super X was semi-relevant when it dropped. And I'll say this right now. Super X went on to be meta-defining. Like, for sure, meta-defining character. It had to get nerfed and everything. But when it dropped, nobody except the whales had it at a usable level for, like, high-rank arena play. It was really slept on. The following month, literally the next season, Super X was everywhere. As soon as people were able to get it like level 10 and 15, right, just by grinding stuff, oh my god, popped off, nerfed, like 2 seasons, maybe later, like crazy shift to the meta. Super X was everywhere. This was you could say the start of flying units starting to become meta. And Dorats were always kind of mid. This is Christmas music playing in the background. Why is there always Christmas music when I'm recording? Skip the song. Okay. Dorats have not really ever been bad. I mean, when they first came out, they were kind of bad. But they weren't, like, terrible. They were really good for low-ranked players. Because they're just an alternative piece to the Kamakuras down here. And they fly. I mean, they're still really not seeing too much play ever. They're really good for new players. They drop off pretty fast. But a lot of people who've taken up like 30 or 40, they say they get good results out of them, but you really can get good results out of any pieces that are level 30 and 40. So Dorats were mid. They weren't too amazing. I actually feel like I would put them in bruh, but they were used by low players pretty frequently. Okay. Next. Both of these Rodans. So unlike our first 2 evolution units, right, or our first evolution unit, these ones are going to be in separate categories. Fire Rodan 1993, bruh category, unusable, right? And a lot of people are going to say if you wailed on them and you had them at a high level, you could use them. Yeah. For those of you who are new to the game, like literally new within the last 2 months, 3 months of this video going live, Fire Rodan's pre-evolution, Rodan 1993, the evolution condition was to stay alive for 20 seconds. What happened was he would speed boost himself and go straight into the enemy's face and then just die. There was or 25 seconds maybe. There's just no way to evolve him. He made it impossible for you to evolve him because he was just rushing straight into an enemy. Now, if you did manage to evolve him, Fire Rodan was really good. I wouldn't say meta-defining because you couldn't really pull Fire Rodan because the pre-evolution would just die constantly. It's the same problem that Ghidorah had. Ghidorah Seasons 1 and I believe maybe into Season 2 had a like 20 or 25 second evolution and was so fast, or maybe a 30-second evolution, and it was so fast that you would place Ghidorah on the field, the flying form, and it would literally go at Fire Rodan speed right across the map and then just die to the enemy leader. It was just unusable. No one was using Ghidorah. As soon as they lowered the speed of Ghidorah's flying form and lowered the time it takes to evolve, Ghidorahs were everywhere, seeing play all over the place. The same thing has happened this last month or 2 with Fire Rodan. Now that Fire Rodan is on Death Evolution, you see them everywhere, way easier. But when they came out, it was very difficult to use them So they weren't meta-defining. But if the evolution technique that they had now was what it was then, they would have been meta-defining. I promise you they would have been meta. The heals were so good. And considering they were added before Psychic Chorus got its insane buff, they were the best heal. Like, they were the best heal. And they were unusable. So, next. Desghidorah. Desghidorah was mid when it dropped, and the reason for that is the same reason that Desghidorah's kind of not been great for a long time for a lot of people, but if you've been playing for a long time, Desghidorah is very good. Don't get me wrong, Desghidorah is a phenomenal unit. I think one of the best units in the game, right? It's just the unlock method for him is just the worst. First of all, he was introduced not at the first All-Star battle. The first All-Star battle, got it, yes, didn't have Desghidorah. He came in during the second one, right? The Fire Rodan season was the second All-Star battle. That's when you start getting Desghidorah pieces for. You could only get one per season, which was one per All-Star battle, until they started letting us unlock him out of boxes. Now, the boxes don't have amazing odds for him, and if you're whaling, sure, you could unlock a ton of pieces for him, but for a free-to-play player, it's just not feasible. Because a large majority of players could not use him effectively in Arena because he was just way too low compared to, like, you know, at the time that he dropped, there was level 10 King Ghidorahs just starting to make their way into the arena. There was level, level 5 to 10 King Ghidorahs. It was really early in the game's life, right? But there was higher level 4 stars that were doing what he was doing that were already in the game. Just like how Kong was overtaken by 89 and the Mothra Leo was overtaken by King Caesar, Desghidorah was overtaken by the regular Ghidorah, who was doing the same thing but better because they had a higher level. So not much of an impact. However, now that the game has been out for a year, there's a lot of high-level Desghidorahs running around, and a lot of Desghidorahs in the low ranks too, and they are everywhere. They're phenomenal character. I cannot stress how important Desghidorah, buying him during the ASBs are. I love him. Great unit. Didn't really affect the meta when he dropped. Kiryu. I'm putting Kiryu as meta-defining. I'm clicking these things. Kiryu, not defining high-rank play. Like I said, like a lot of these characters suffer from, and if you play the game, you know, when a new 4-star comes out, they're really not usable. Well, they are now because of the rent feature. But before that, getting a new 4-star didn't really mean too much because they weren't up to snuff with all the other characters. Whatever, fine. Kiryu didn't make too much of an impact in high rank. For low rank players, Kiryu was everywhere. If you pulled a Kiryu at the lowest of ranks, phenomenal. Dropping him on the enemy characters to just nuke them. Dragon dropping Kiryu was taking over the low ranks, and it only got worse. Not the problem, but the problem got worse, or the tactics just got more and more crazy. The following season, I believe literally the season after Kiryu was added, maybe it was 2 seasons after, free-to-play players were able to unlock Kiryu just by logging in for 3 days and doing all their challenges. This made Kiryu everywhere. If he wasn't meta-defining in low ranks before, he was meta-defining in the low ranks now, like ever since the Kiryu starter missions. Very good unit early on, and the higher the levels you have on him, very good unit. Late game, when he dropped, he wasn't defining the meta for like end game players unless you wailed, but early game he was defining the meta. He was everywhere. His absolute zero cannon was incredible, and it still is an incredible ability, so I'll put him as meta defining. Burning Godzilla. Burning Godzilla is mid. When he dropped, everyone was really excited because he's one of the most powerful incarnations of Godzilla. However, not really great. His attack was okay. His whole kit revolves around him surviving, and he had really bad survivability. He didn't attack fast. He didn't have a strong attack. It was just a mess. And since then, he's had a buff where he's gotten like an attack buff, and that helps him survive, but it's not what he needed. He needs like his timer decreased or something, or more health to make him more viable. Very powerful unit, but he just doesn't have the stats to back up what his kit demands, so he was mid. G54 semi-relevant. G54 has never really been meta, but has always been used pretty effectively. The stats are really good. He's very tanky. His stats kind of comparable in the same ballpark as Ultima. Very tanky, and the fact that he can become other Godzillas is amazing. And you can manipulate what Godzillas he becomes depending on what Godzillas are in your deck. So, he can become G89, Ultima, but he becomes Terrestrius first, then you can evolve into Ultima. Burning, Kiryu, and 89 Ultima, Kiryu, Burning he can become. He cannot become Shin or Earth. But you can, if you put 89 in your deck as your leader and then G54 in your deck, he can't become 89. As long as that Godzilla is in your deck, he can't transform into them. So if you put Ultima in your deck and 54, you get a 54 tank for Ultima. Ultima can snipe from the back, and then 54 will become, Burning or Kiryu, because odds are if you're running him in high play, you're using 89 as your leader. So you could kind of just funnel in I'm like suffocating on myself. You could kind of just funnel in Kiryu and Burning Godzillas very reliably. That was always very, very good. The main thing that didn't make him meta was the levels that the units he would transform into weren't the same level as him. It was whatever level you had them before. So, like, if I were to use him today, if he became Ultima, he would drop a level 15 Ultima on the field, right? But my Burning is only level 6. So, kind of a toss-up. The fact that he's dependent on, like, several other characters' levels and your progress on them is what's been holding him back from being meta. Very good unit, and he recently got his energy cost brought down from 7 to 6, which is great, but there's a lot of other 6 energy cost units that he's competing with for spot in your deck, so not very meta. Next, Gigan 04 I'll put as semi-relevant. Gigan 04 is very powerful. I'm not going to put him as mid. I think that Gigan 04 is low-key one of the best units in the game. He just needs the levels. But when he dropped, he still was very good. I mean, he wasn't absurdly broken. Like, he wasn't all-powerful, but you could do infinite stun locks with him. You could stun from a very large range. You could tank with it. Tank, I say loosely, like, he'll stun a unit and then take aggro for another unit. So you could, like, get a free hit off and something like that, get a free stun. Very solid unit. Very skilled players will still use him and see success, but he just doesn't have a lot of health, so he's very difficult to use. I feel like Gigan 04 is, like, the easy-to-use, hard-to-master kind of character. I would like to see a buff to him, but it is what it is. Kids. I'll put Kids in, bruh. Kids has a lot of potential to be very, very good as a character, as a unit. It teleports your characters, but I think it's too expensive for what it demands. I think the ability is great. I think the concept is great. I think it just costs too much. If they brought it down to like a 4 cost character or like a 3 cost, it would be everywhere. For sure. Like for rush decks, it would be everywhere. But fact of the matter is, it's just very difficult to use in high ranked. It costs a lot of energy, and if your deck isn't revolving like around using Kids against someone, you're not casually just dropping Kids in the middle of a fight. So Kids didn't really have an impact on the meta when it dropped, aside from people like experimenting and trying to figure out what the best way to use it was, and then the best way to use it we found was just not use it at all. So that was that. Earth. Man, if we had the rent feature when Earth dropped, Earth would be meta defining, like no question, but we didn't. Earth is a very good unit. Earth, I think, is one of the best units. Personally, I think Earth is one of the best. Earth plus Dimension Tide is insane. You should try it out if you haven't. But Earth is slow. He's a huge energy cost. You have to kind of build your deck around using him. I love Earth. I want to say he was meta defining. He wasn't. And it's for the same reason. So with this list and all future lists that are, like, if we do year 2 characters eventually, right, next year, starting at the season after Ultima, so the Jet Jaguar 73 season, they added a feature that if you're playing now, you know, it's a rent feature. And the level that you could rent a character is, equals whatever you are in the arena. So when you hit rank 65 in the arena, you can rent a unit at level 10. When Earth came out, that wasn't there. He was the last season that didn't have the rent feature. Earth at level 1 has like 4,000 health or whatever. He's not stopping anything. And especially in high rank, where like the meta is like finely tuned and molded and crafted by high ranking players, he's not stopping anything. He's going to get rolled through at level 1. If we could have rented him at level 10, where he had like 5.5 thousand health, he would have been meta. Like, no question. He has the health to do it. He has the damage to do it. The fact of the matter is, though, we didn't have the levels for him. And that's a common trend for all of the units on the list as at the moment that you see, like all of them. The biggest thing keeping most of the semi-relevant characters from not being meta is they didn't have the levels on them. Simple as that. Literally every single one of them. The only exception you kind of make is Jet Jaguar, because if you unlocked him, like I said earlier, you can get a bunch of pieces for him. But even still, at level 5, there was a lot going on in the game at the time. But he was also always really good. But Earth could have been meta, isn't meta. Now, the first unit that we were able to rent, extremely disappointing. Jet Jaguar. I think Jet Jaguar, I'll put him like this. Bruh and bruh. Or mid and bruh. The boost, the heal boost that you get from this was actually really solid. I think it's like a 25% or like a 30% boost. I don't really remember off the top of my head. I don't use them ever. And that's good. You can push him with Earth, or like any flying unit can push him. So you'd have a constant buff going for like 25 seconds. And he'll fly in a circle and buff like intermittently. So he'll always put a buff up. Really good on defense. He can be killed. So he can be killed before he evolves. But when he evolves, he effectively gets worse. He loses the health buff, and he basically he karate chops the enemies and pushes them back. I really dig the concept of pushing a unit back. It's a concept that from the start of the game I said would be interesting mechanic to give a character. But he didn't have the damage to back him up. He's not hitting anyone far enough away. He's hitting someone far back. They're hitting him, and then he's going to walk up and get hit, and then he's going to hit them, and then he's going to get hit again, and then he's going to get hit again, and then he's going to push them back, and he's going to die. So I don't know what needs to happen to make Jet Jaguar good, but it's just so not worth using him at the high ranks. If you want to use him at your low ranks, go wild, but he's just not great at all. I'm not a fan of him. I think he needs a total rework, and I think it was an absolute waste of the rent feature. I would have much rather had him come out in March, and then Earth come out in April, and Earth get the rent feature. That would have been phenomenal, but we didn't get that. We live in the darkest timeline. Moving on. Mecha King Ghidorah. Mecha King Ghidorah is meta-defining, man. So good. And this was post-nerf, so this season, the season of Godzilla Ultima, or Godzilla Shin Godzilla. Yes, Shin Godzilla. His season saw a nerf to King Ghidorah midway through the season, or Mecha King Ghidorah, where Mecha King Ghidorah's attack was 2.1 seconds. It got moved to 2.8 in season, this is season 13. And totally neutered him, right? But when he dropped, not only is he a phenomenal leader, he was also an amazing unit. He was only getting a little bit more damage than King Ghidorah. He has the same health as King Ghidorah, but he gets a little bit more damage. But the fact that King Ghidorah had a 2.8 attack and Mecha King Ghidorah had a 2.1 attack meant that his DPS was off the charts phenomenal. For his damage, for his attack speed, everything. His DPS was great, and you could rent him at level 10 if you made it to rank 65. Amazing piece, phenomenal piece, literally got nerfed the previous season, or the next season, the season after. You hate to see it, but amazing unit, definitely was meta when he dropped, no question asked. Meta leader, meta unit, all around very, very good. Next, Kamada-kun and the other form of Shin Godzilla that looks like a male phallic object that I will not say because I don't want to lose the green dollar sign on this video. And then Shin Godzilla, who I like. Kamada-kun is pretty mid. He doesn't really do too much. He's pretty much a guaranteed evolution if you don't play like a moron. So he'll go in mid just because he's not like very relevant, but like you're not relying on him to do anything important for your team like Bachelor Larva, you know, but he's not terrible. This form of Godzilla kind of just stands there. I'm not going to put him in bruh. A lot of people don't like him, but if you evolve him from Kamada-kun and then he dies on the field, and then you get him back in your hand, you just place him behind your leader. They're going to have to go out of their way to hit him to make sure he doesn't evolve. Is what it is. I like him. A lot of people don't like him. I don't understand why. He's like a really easy character to evolve. Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is not meta. I think we've had enough time with him this season and enough at rented at level 10 to kind of figure out that he's not going to be meta right now. He has a ton of potential. He has by far, and I want you to take this seriously, by far the best AoE in the game. In my opinion, he has the best AoE. However, He doesn't just attack in an AoE. If a unit is on the ground, it's single target attack. If a unit is in the air, it's AoE. The AoE is phenomenal. The single target is not. Anything nailed to the ground will neuter Shin Godzilla immediately. He is phenomenal on defense. He is phenomenal against flying units. Mecha King Ghidorah was nerfed. He was taking them down out of the sky. He's taking Batchers out of the skies, Mothras, Mothra Leos, Fire Rodans, anything, Super X, anything in the sky. He's taking it down. Not a problem. No questions asked. But you throw those three little Kamakuras his way, it's over. He folds like paper. It's unfortunate. He's not a terrible unit, and you'll see where I place him in this season's tier list when that time comes for that. But he's not meta. He could have been meta. We were so close to greatness with him. But it is what it is, and he's not meta, but he is very relevant, and the fact that he can be rented at level 10 is phenomenal, and I think he is worth running if you really want to, use him and test him out. It's not like a total loss if you use him in your deck. I just think at the moment there's better characters to be using. But that's all I got. This is a long video. So thank you all so much for watching this. I want to, next year continue this series and do, the year 2 units and see what we can do with them. And I'm so excited to see where this game goes in the next year. You have no idea. Hopefully it's as popular as it is now, and it keeps going, it keeps kicking, and they keep dropping great content. The first year 2 character will be dropping in July, provided that there is not a surprise character at the end of June. I'm very excited for the future of this game. I love all the characters they dropped this year, except for Jaguar 73. But aside, that's a lie. I actually really do like how his model looks. I just don't like how he plays in the game. But aside from that, thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you all on the next one. Bye-bye.